Happy Halloween, everybody. Boo. It is episode number 671 today. My guest is my good friend Neal Francis. He returns to the show, and I just spent 2 months on the road with him and his band and the Marcus King Band and Ashland Craft. We have wound down the tour, and I am home. It is the first couple of days of sitting in my house, and it's a strange thing. Strange thing when you get off tour. Neal has been home for 2 days and then immediately started a European tour. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you live over in the UK, go see this man immediately on tour. Tour dates are at nealfrancis.com. But what I was going to say is there's this weird thing about touring where when you first get on it, you're kind of like, it reminds me of when I was young going to summer camp. You're homesick, you're missing your friends, you're missing your animals, Gertie. And then you kind of get conditioned and you get into this mode and this vibe of like, this is what I've always wanted to do. And then you start to enjoy it. And then a couple months go by and it ends. And then you step off back into real life and you're like, fuck. You know, like I drove my car today and I was just like, this is weird. Running errands. You don't run errands when you're on tour. You just kind of have a tour manager and other people handing you room keys. Here's where you're sleeping, and here's your food, and everything is just geared around doing the art. And it's a beautiful thing, and it's sad when it comes to an end. And I miss everybody on the tour, the bus drivers, the crew, the bands, Marcus, Neal, Ashland, everybody that worked on the tour, the venues, everything. So it was a wild ride, and I want to thank everybody that came out to the shows. And it was really, really cool to get to know all these people on this tour, and especially Neal and Marcus, just talking music with these two guys. These two cats. I love people. Man, I was just shooting the shit with these two cats about music. But it's amazing to be with people that are such music heads like myself, and also into other things like comedy and art and architecture. These guys, you know, they go deep into the stuff they love like myself. So you just have these great late night conversations on the bus, and I'm going to miss it. It was great to talk to Neal again now that I've toured with him and really got to experience his band every night. They are just fantastic. They got a new EP coming out November 18th called Sentimental Garbage. And this man's a star. Marcus King is a star. I've never met anyone, I was saying, like Marcus King and Neal for that. You know, these guys are old souls. You know, like, I feel like some people have walked the earth a few different times in different bodies, vessels, whatever. And they just get wiser and more laid back. I mean, Neal and Marcus are just laid back humans. I rarely see them, if ever, looking at their phones. Never see them looking at their phones. It's none of that shit. It's weird. It's inspiring. They inspire me, man. And I just love the low-key, just enjoying the moment type of living. And I want to try to get there a little more if I can, you know. My brain is, it has addictive personalities. You change one addiction for something else. Everybody knows that. And if you recognize it, it's fine. Look, I'm addicted to the phone. I'm addicted to comedy. These are okay addictions for the most part, you know. So, Neal Francis is here, and I want you guys to dig into his music. He has 2 records out. They are fantastic. And what a great conversation this is. We go all over the place. You want to catch me? I will be in Las Vegas November 7th through the 13th at the Comedy Cellar. I'm also going to be out in Philly at Soul Joel's. These dates are on the website. And some dates with Bill Burr in December. So get some tickets. Come see me. It's going to be nice to step into the Comedy Store tomorrow night for my spot number 300 of the year. I have done 299 sets so far. And number 300 will be at the store. And I can't think of a better place to do number 300 for the year than at the Comedy Store. Working my ass off. Still trying to get funny. Still trying to hang in there, man. It's a wild ride. Thank you all the Patreoners. I want to thank you all on Patreon. There will be a bonus episode this week, and now that I am home, I will fire back up the live Zooms. And patreon.com/Dean Delray greatly helps out the podcast. A new Grail will be out this week. All kinds of work will be going down this week and episodes and all of that for you guys. Thank you so much. And I want to give a shout out to Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer for giving me some love on the 2 Bears today. It's so funny, man. You can, in this biz, you can be up and down in moods, and little cool things like kind words go a long way, man. They go a long way. I woke up to some DMs from people going, hey, man, the 2 Bears podcast is giving you a lot of love. And, man, bam, I start to feel better. So thank you for that. This episode is brought to you by my great sponsors. I have 2, and I love them both. Standard and Strange for all my clothing. It's funny because Bert and Tom were saying, yeah, Dean, he's cool. He fucking dresses cool and shit. I love clothing, and I get most of it at Standard and Strange. StandardandStrange.com for your denim, your boots, your leather jackets, any kind of great clothing. Go to StandardandStrange.com or visit their stores in New York and New Mexico and Berkeley/Oakland. Great humans, great store. I love it. Also, speaking of love, deep love for my animal, my dog, Gertie. Love this dog. She's right here next to me, taking a fierce nap on the couch. I like to feed her the best food because I want her to be around a long time. So I go to migosdog.com. If you're in the Los Angeles area, they now deliver to your house. Migos Dog. You can also get it at Erewhon's and Healthy Spot. Available all over California, but if you live in Los Angeles, they are delivering now, which is just amazing. Have fresh dog food, pure premium ingredients. I could eat this stuff. I only eat clean. I found out real quick. You eat shitty, you die quick, man. You get diabetes, you get cancer, you get all kinds of bullshit. And same with your animal. Don't be feeding them just some junk. You don't know what's in there. You know, dogs get allergies. They get swollen, bones and joints. And, treat them right. You want them around. They are the love of your life. MigosDog.com. Also, hit them up on Instagram. Tell them I sent you. All right, I love all you guys. And thank you for every week tuning in to the podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and please leave a review. It really helps. And check out the YouTube channel, Dean Delray. Here we go. Let's get into it. A little rock talk for you, Neal Francis. Well, look at here. We are.
Here we
The
are.
Return of Neal Francis.
We've been talking about it for weeks now,
Yeah.
and we made it.
Yeah, when did I do... Were you on during COVID?
Yeah.
I remember, man, it was like... I heard the record with changes on it, and I was like, oh, I got to get this guy on. Somehow it happened. You were living in that church, and it's the weirdest fucking thing because I interviewed Marcus years ago, and I've had him on 3 times, and then we thought about this tour, and then it happens, and you're on it. It's just so weird to me, for real, like totally weird. Here's some guys that didn't know each other years ago, and then you're on the podcast. Now we're on tour.
Right, because I think when we met up in Studio City when I was in L.A. a few months back, I didn't even know you were on the tour yet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going out with this guy, Marcus King. You're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there.
I'm on the tour, too. It's so funny.
I was like, hell yeah.
It's so weird, though, right?
Yeah.
I swear to God, like, life is so bizarre to me to think about that. Just everything.
Synchronicities.
Yeah. I often say that life is, and I've said it on my podcast for years, that your map is kind of laid out for you, and you don't know it. And you just riding on this, like at Disneyland, they got the car, and it has a track, and you try to get it off track, and it pushes you back in.
Dude, I think about that all the time.
So do I.
It's weird. I started talking to a new therapist this week, and in our first call, I was like, "Well, so do you think we have a choice in the matter?" And we got into a heady discussion from there.
Yeah,
but it's like I'm always thinking about that. It's weird.
True, though.
It's like why did any of this happen?
Just that. You look at that, and I've had a zillion of those in my life, but just that, if you went like, yeah, well, I met Marcus years ago, had him on the podcast, then a few years later had him on again, found out he's a comedy fan, we talked about doing a tour, COVID happened, no tour, and then meanwhile during COVID, I interview you, hopefully you get to go out on the road, we're talking all that, and then boom, we're all together. Just that is weird.
Far out, man.
It really is.
Some far out.
It is, man.
Some far out shit right there.
And you guys have been killing it every night, man.
Thanks, man.
It's so cool to see. It's like 2 different types of music, but all rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And the audience isn't like, nah, I only like this type of music.
Right.
That does not happen on this tour.
Yeah, I've been really grateful to be on this tour. I mean, we knew it was going to be awesome, but I think the way it's gone has exceeded our expectations just because we've just, the audiences are really receptive to what we're doing. It feels so good. The band is getting really tight, like the best we've ever felt on stage, and it's really opened up a lot of doors for us in this last few weeks even.
Yeah, man, it's a game changer for sure. And I want to compliment the crowd because the crowds have been so electric. I go to a lot of concerts, and there's kind of that cell phone world where people really aren't engaged anymore at shows. Mm-hmm. But these shows have been pretty damn rowdy and rocking like old school.
Yeah, I feel like at a lot of my shows, that tends to be the case. The shows I've played, people are there to just hang and see the music and be in the moment, and that's the way I try to be at shows. As soon as I get my phone out, I have like a superstition. I'm like, it's not going to be cool anymore. Like, I'm not going to be having fun as much anymore because I'm trying to steal this moment, and I'm already in it, experiencing it. And then if I bring my phone out to try and capture it, all of a sudden I'm not in it anymore. And then it's either going on Instagram, so that's its own problematic shit, but then regardless, I'm taken out of the experience, so I'm glad to have noticed that too.
A couple nights ago we played in Chicago, which is your hometown, and it was Aragon Aragon?
Aragon Ballroom.
Yeah, Aragon Ballroom, which looked like basically the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, man.
You know, without the
It's
boat.
wild.
Yeah, I was like, where's the boat at?
Right.
You're waiting for the guys to come out. You scallywag.
Yeah.
With those guns with the sparks come out.
Yo ho.
Yeah. Maybe they used to chase the hookers and they got rid of that. Now they have them chasing
Dude,
dogs.
oh my God. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
That was 25 years ago. I went to Disney World.
Yeah, with the parents back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Which one, Florida or LA?
Florida.
Oh, wow.
It was so awesome, man.
Yeah.
Actually, the first time I went, I was like 6.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, so that was 28 years ago.
Yeah.
Vastly different, I'm sure.
I got like a picture with Donald Duck.
Dude, we did all that. We did like all that, and it was like, I think it was like the last day of kindergarten or something, and they surprised us, me and my brother, with it. Well, he was only 2, so he didn't give a shit. But like,
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
they were like, we're
got
going
robbed.
to Disney World. We're like going to the airport. I was like, oh, holy shit! Like,
It's such a big deal back then.
so big.
So simple life back then.
Yeah.
Just a moment where your parents have the Kodak Instamatic camera.
Uh-huh.
You wind it.
Oh, yeah.
And then snap.
Man, that's so crazy. Because every time we go to load in or load out for tour, we go to this storage unit that's right under the expressway in Chicago. It's so funny, man. And like, pull the van up, and we've got all our gear in there, and I have a bunch of my shit in there. Because I live in this like tiny apartment right now after moving out from the church. But I somehow became the guy who inherited all of the family photos.
Oh, cool.
And there was like a armoire full of these old, you know, I don't know, what are they, like 5x3 or something?
Yeah.
You know, whatever that
Those
format
square-
is.
yeah, the
and
squares.
it's just like, you know, there's got to be thousands of them in there. And every time we go in there, I'm just like, I just pick a random one. I'm like, here we go, boys. Like,
Yeah.
you know, what is this going to be?
Sometimes I go to the Goodwill and I'll see family photos. Like, who's buying these?
Yeah,
like
that's-
some serial killer. He's like walking around with a wallet. That's my family. He just bought it at Goodwill.
Yeah.
And you see the different eras of photos. So years and years, there was like a white border around them.
Mm-hmm.
And then somewhere around 80, they came out with the borderless photo. And that was supposed to be incredible. And you'd always go down to the drugstore, like a CVS or Walgreens, and they'd have them done overnight. But then the 1 hour photo place came out. That was weird. Like, I got to have these now.
Well, I don't even know. It's been so long since I've developed film. I think a lot of the guys, you know, a couple of the guys in my band shoot, and you know, they take it to like a proper lab.
Right.
They send them away or something. I had some photos that I took on like I bought an Instamatic camera when we were in Berlin, me and my girlfriend, in April, and I have yet to develop those photos because I'm just like, I don't know where to take these.
I know. And, you know, a cool thing you guys do, which is really cool, and I think we talked about it maybe on the podcast or in person in Studio City, you carry around an old VHS like camera that the dad would have out at the soccer game. That's my son on the field, you know? And you shoot all kinds of stuff and dump it immediately into the computer. And it's crazy how quick it is, and it's not a big file or anything, and it looks cool as shit.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think we have 2 VHS cameras now. I bought mine during the pandemic because we were in the position where we're just trying to do anything to garner interest. And so we were taking videos on iPhone, and then I was editing them in Premiere, and I would, you know, be trying all these different filters, and I was like, oh, this VHS filter is really cool. But it would take like a whole day to render, you know, this 2-minute video, because I had my shitty computer, whatever, but it was like, it would take so long to render this little file. And I was like, why am I not just shooting it on VHS? And I found out that you could do that because it's like a VHS player with a camera on it, essentially. Right. So you can, like, you know, if you had a copy of, you know, an old Disney movie or something, you could throw it in there and watch it, but like on your computer screen.
Yeah.
But
and what's the convert? How does it convert? So you got the
it's like a USB.
Right, USB, and it converts digital.
Well, yeah, it's like those, like the red, white, and yellow cable.
Right.
You plug those into like this USB analog to digital converter, and it just sends it right into your computer, and you're watching it in real time. And so
it's been so cool.
And then,
to see that
Callan got
stuff.
one too, so now we have 2 cameras that are identical. Mine's broken at the moment, but
So since we talked and we were on the podcast, you had the record out, and now you have a second record out, and you have an EP that is dropping with Strawberry Letter 22 and like 5-6 songs that I heard last week. And some of the songs on that, I was telling you, were blowing my mind. Like the first 3 were so good. So what's the name of the EP? When did you record it? And why did you come up with the idea of that fantastic cover?
the EP is called Sentimental Garbage, which is the title of a track on In Plain Sight, our last record. Like, I wanted to call that record Sentimental Garbage, and we ended up calling it In Plain Sight, which didn't appear on the record.
AC/DC style.
Right, or Led Zeppelin, like House of the Holy.
Yeah,
right. So, so now I'm like, all right, well, this track, In Plain Sight, is unreleased. We had 4 unreleased tracks from those recording sessions at the church I was living in. And originally, I was just going to release an A and B side. So it was going to be this track, Don't Want You to Know, backed with In Plain Sight. And then, we saw that we had all this material left over, and it was suggested that, we could just do an EP. And I was, like, thrilled to, put out another 12-inch. So we're like, what are we going to call it? I'm like, now In Plain Sight's on this record. I can call it Sentimental Garbage, just because I get a kick of having that on a LP, I think. But, it's just a compilation of unreleased material from those In Plain Sight sessions. And then the 2 covers, Strawberry Letter 23 and Collage, we did for Aquarium Drunkard.
Right.
It was like this cover series they do, and so we included those as well. And I recorded more arrangements, auxiliary arrangement stuff on some of the tracks too. So
I'm looking at it right now. So very fine. Parts 1 and 2, just killer. Track 1. Then Don't You to Know. What,
Don't Want You to Know.
Don't Want You to Know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm learning how to read. I'm getting pretty good.
You had us all fooled, man.
I'm getting good on this tour. In Plain Sight. Those 3 in a row just blew my mind. And here's something. I called it Strawberry Letter 22. I think I might have think that it was that all my whole life. Strawberry Letter 22.
Well, he says that in the A Message from You.
Yeah.
Strawberry Letter 22.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I was like, am I going crazy here?
Yeah. So
Shuggy Otis.
Yeah.
But it's called Strawberry Letter 23?
Yeah.
Weird, because I have the re-release of the Shuggy Otis, and I never even noticed that it was 23.
I think it's, in the arc of the song, which is very spacey and psychedelic and really nonsensical. He's sort of like, this is my reply, Strawberry Letter 23.
Oh, I gotcha. So how did you come up with the idea of doing that cover, which is fantastic, and you guys kill it? I saw Rolling Stone did a cool write-up on it and shit. That was great.
That was an honor. Yeah, I mean, I've just been a huge fan of that song since I heard it, in high school.
Isley Brothers also did it.
Brothers Johnson.
Oh, Brothers Johnson, that's right.
Although I could hear the Isley Brothers doing a killer version of that, and I've always wanted to cover Isley Brothers too, because they're one of those groups that just has such a deep catalog. But yeah, Shuggy is like one of my main influences. Like, he was such a brilliant composer and instrumentalist, and his vocal style is pretty laid back.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw that it was attainable or feasible for me to attempt. And so we covered it live for a while, and then when we got in the studio, I wanted to do kind of a mashup of the Brothers Johnson version and the Shuggy arrangement. So that's kind of what we did.
It's interesting to watch you sing because it is a mellow, laid-back vocal. It's not like,
Yeah.
And I always sit there as a singer for all the years thinking, like, how is he hearing himself? Because you're not going in ears. Like, to me, it just seems you got to go ear. But it's cutting. You got to have a great sound guy in the house because it's cutting through. And, of course, in the studio, you could be like, hello, my girl.
Yeah.
You got headphones on and everything. When you first started singing, were you singing a different style, like louder and stuff?
Man, I did not know how to sing, just straight up. When I started this project, I was like, I want to sing, I need to sing, but I can't. And it was just like, for a while, I just groped around in the dark, kind of like trying to sing. I like the first recording session I did for Changes. It was just a long ass vocal session because I was having to redo stuff with Sergio. God bless him. But eventually, I started having a lesson here and there, and mainly, the great leap forward came from touring and then also being instructed on like what good warm-ups there were to do, and that's really what has like carried me to where I'm confident now. But yeah, still like to your question, like the technical aspect of it is challenging because I'm not putting all that much into the mic, so it has to be really hot in my monitor.
Yeah, and you're right next to the Vibrolux that's pumping out the clavinet.
Yeah, and
the
it's really
keyboards.
problematic. Over the years, I've learned how to actually sing from my diaphragm and not, my head or my chest, and it's produced more consistent results, I'd say.
It's fantastic.
Thanks.
I have not got to see you do it live yet because you haven't done it on this tour.
No, Strawberry, yeah. Yeah, Strawberry, we've been avoiding it just because there's so much like spacey like overdub shit going on that it just seems like a challenge to reproduce that especially without like an organ, because I usually tour with an organ, and when we would cover Strawberry Letter 23 we would usually have the Hammond on stage for that. So
my favorite part of the set is, well, of course I love the whole set has been great to watch, but the last song, Into the Out Jam, which is kind of a in my mind, an ode to Echoes, kind of, which is just this great heartbeat type of pumping, rhythm that's just hypnotic. And it goes and goes and goes. And I love the confidence of that, of just vamping on something,
Yeah.
And watching the crowd get hypnotized by it, and then when it goes into the down, 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 and seeing the crowd go, oh yeah, and they react to it like, ah, and then it breaks down, and then you get up and kind of bow. It's like fucking great, man.
That's been my favorite part of the set too. We've been playing we have like an A set list and a B set list, and that's part of the A set list. It's called Sentimental Garbage, which has developed its own arrangement in the last year or so that's kind of like movements, and it's so fun to play. I get to like actually just focus on the synthesizer for 1 minute.
Yeah,
and
I love that because you kind of just turn away.
Yeah, we
and then you start just dialing in knobs like it's killer.
We totally like I see it as like a nod to krautrock, like Noi or Kraftwerk or something. There's just like this weird like rock and roll rhythm section, but then like a synth just like thrown in there, and it's just like droning or can.
Can.
I want to write some stuff like that, and that's like another thing I was gonna say is I'm really excited. Like this tour has got me so excited to get back in the studio and just play with the studio, basically.
Well, yeah, it's almost like you're starting to find this this whole adventure. Mm-hmm. Of like a Steely Dan, Can, Pink Floyd, Curtis Mayfield. It's just, it's such it's like you roll the dice and it's like, holy shit, man, this is a kind of the cool stew that is going on right here. And I've been loving it. And then the songs just stick in my head all night, you know? Man. I Can't Stop the Rain.
Yeah.
I kept saying, I can't quit cocaine. Which you're still sober since I talked to you last, right?
Yeah, man. I just got 7 years on the 16th.
Great. Congrats, man. It's pretty easy to stay sober around me, right?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, fuck you, man. I heard that. I'm right here, bitch.
No, dude, it's been great hanging with you, seriously. Just, you've got a great vibe that you're bringing to this whole group of people. And I love, you remember everything from your life, but also just, the interviews you've done and just anecdotes in general about shit. I kind of relate to that because I have this freakish memory for weird stuff, dates and names. I'm somehow good at that, and I feel like I relate to you on that level too. So it's just been really fun talking to you and hanging.
It's funny, I was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There's a giant photo of James Hetfield and Jason Newsted, right? And I looked right at it. It's huge. And I said, oh, that's Russia, 91. and the security guard goes, what? I go, yeah, that's the Russia concert. I think it was 1 million people there. And he goes, man, I've been trying to find out which gig that's from for years because people ask me. And I whipped up the video on YouTube, and he's like, I can't believe you knew.
That's amazing.
I just fucking knew, man. He goes, how do you know? And I go, I just know the stage. I know the outfits. I know the look. I just knew.
It starts to just fill in, right? I mean, that's why I always like to ask, I'm not afraid to ask. If I'm listening to something that I'm digging and I'm not familiar with it, I used to be afraid to, ask who it is because I didn't want to,
right. Oh,
look,
yeah.
I didn't want it to look like I didn't already know.
I thought you
this
knew,
cool
Mr.
thing.
Hipster.
Yeah. So it's
you don't know.
Yeah. So I'm just, now I'm just who is this? What year was it released?
Yeah.
Who played on it? Mike, the bass player, and I are usually this, driving team. So when I'm driving or he's driving, the other one's in shotgun. And so, the guy in shotgun is usually DJing.
Yes.
And then, simultaneously on the Wikipedia article for this artist or this record, and we're oh, so, James Jamerson played on this one, and, oh, this was, the rhythm section from the Crusaders on this one, and then it was sampled by Jay Dilla, and then it was, you just fill in all these little pieces of information, and that gives you a snapshot of, the history of music, after a while. And then, the cool thing about that is now I have a pretty good educated guess as to, when something came out. If I have never heard it before, I'm oh, well, this, the way that they're treating the horns on this sounds like it might have come out in 78 or 79 based on these other recordings that I've listened to. And it's this weird thing that totally gets you a lot of chicks. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's
well, you can.
It's the nerdiest thing ever. But.
Well, you start nerding out of well, this is definitely disco horns. It's not R&B early James Brown type of horns. Yeah, because
there's that.
This is
dirty,
4 on the floor disco thing. Earth, Wind and Fire type of stuff. Yeah, you get way into it, and that's one thing I've loved about this tour, is everyone on this tour. It's so different from. I spent my life hoping to play with people that loved music. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you get a guy who likes music or he plays in the band or whatever. But this tour, it's so... sometimes I lay in my bunk and I think, man, I just had a killer 1-hour conversation with Neal about such and such, and... Or with Marcus, Marcus and I will be talking. Marcus will be oh, that's this and that, and I'm just everyone is a music head on this, in some era that they love.
Dude, we're all super nerds.
Yeah, I was just looking through my phone, which
nerds who did good.
Yeah, what I love about looking through my phone right now with you, because I was looking up the EP, is going through some of our back and forth conversations, which, by the way, we've been celebrating Michael McDonald this entire tour, and we cannot stop.
Let's continue that celebration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's not to celebrate?
But I'm going through, and we're going back and forth with just stuff we're sharing with each other, and whether it be coffee or music. So I sent you over the Growers of Mushrooms, Leaf Hound.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That record's so cool.
Oh, my God.
We were listening to that on the way into El Paso after we played in Austin, between Austin and Phoenix. And that's the other thing, too. It's now I'm like, this whole year and this whole like insane touring we've been doing over the last few years, I like associate all these places with different music.
Totally.
Like, so like, I remember driving through British Columbia, listening to Donald Byrd, and it's just like, it's so paired with it like a good movie, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
we ran down that rabbit hole of the Epic FM, the single from Steely Dan from the movie.
yeah. And I was like, oh, did it come out on Asia or was it Gaucho? And you're like, neither.
Yeah.
Actually, neither.
And then I saw the movie in the theater as a kid, and I can't even tell you anything about the movie right now. I remember the cover. It was black, and it had silver foil, like when they would do foil on a cover.
Yeah.
And it said FM, and it had all these bands, the biggest bands, and there's no way you could do that soundtrack now. It would cost $1 billion.
Right.
So I think the movie is out of print and the record because of the rights, obviously.
Well, the record was a bestseller. I know it was like...
Yeah, won Grammys and shit, I think.
Because I remember after we had that conversation, I looked into it. I remember like just going down the rabbit hole on it. And that song is just so good. But I was convinced it was on Asia for all these years because it just has that same production style as the rest of that record.
How much does Steely Dan run through your mind in a writing type of situation? Because I do get some distant Steely Dan from you guys, which is fucking cool.
Yeah, that's a huge compliment. I don't know how much it was really in my consciousness directly in this last round of songs I wrote, but like what they did is insanely well was just they had like this twist to the rock idiom.
Totally.
And it wasn't straight up jazz. It could be, but it was like, it was never out enough to like turn people away. But there was this like subtle, nuanced like treat, in there that was like a little bit different. The chord changes and the instrumentation. And I mean, they always had the best musicians in the business working on their shit. So it was like, as a musician, they are just one of the greatest bands. It's so good, man.
It's crazy.
And the lyrics are like funny and weird, and like for a band that was that popular to just be, it kind of makes you pine for that era. If you didn't know any better, you'd be like, well, things were just so much better back then because like look at like how popular Steely Dan was. It's like, you can't compare, but yeah, just so amazing on so many levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just that LA cocaine jazz.
Yeah.
and total musical elites. They were like, to me, there's those Zappa people. And they're like, anybody that played in Zappa is known as being the best of the best. Zappa only got the best guys. There was never a guy that was like, he's okay. You don't hear that in Zappa. Same with Steely Dan. It was only the best players in that thing.
Right. And that's funny you mentioned Zappa. Because, like, yeah, he would have auditions, right?
Yeah.
Where they were like open auditions.
I know.
And he would just watch. He would actually be there and watch like hundreds of people play drums. And I think that's how he found Vinnie Colaiuta.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing him tell that story. It's a funny one. But
yeah, Mike Keneally said that there was just kind of this word on the street that he was good. And one day his home phone rang. And he was like, is this Mike? Yes, show up tomorrow, learn everything, and audition or whatever. And he just showed up like an airplane hangar. And the band was way in the back, Scott Tunis is there like, plug in. Is that your amp? Are you in tune? All right, go. I was like, what? I don't know. It was something like that. It's a great story. I had Keneally on the podcast if you guys want to hear it. But Steely Dan, a lot like that, being the best of the best.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I feel like they didn't flex chops as much as Zappa did.
Of course.
And Zappa's inspiring to me. I like a lot of his music, but I'm not as like, drawn to his music on a day-to-day basis. But what I am fascinated by when it comes to Zappa is like just the idea of this guy who did exactly what he wanted, and he was just like, a workaholic.
Yeah.
But he was always editing video or writing, like physically writing these intricate, rock symphonies basically.
Have you seen the documentary?
Which one?
Zappa.
this
out like
this is a
about a year
recent
ago,
one?
yeah.
I've seen clips from it, but not
It's
the
a
whole thing
must-see.
yet. Yeah.
Because the guy was just what I like about him is he's the real deal.
Oh
where, where he wasn't like, I got to get hits. He
No.
gave zero fucks about hits. It was about how can we be the best? This is in my head. I need to hear this. It's just keep moving. Let's do another record. Let's do another record. And he was, I'm a musician.
Right.
This is what we do.
And he was so candid about like his opinions.
Oh, yeah.
Regarding the music industry, and like I've watched several archival interviews with him. They're so funny, but he's so
smart.
He's
just
so smart.
Clowning the interviewers.
And just like,
I'd hate
running
to interview
circles around him.
He'd be like, did you just say dude again? You know what I mean? Like, he would be like that, like, you're real. You read a lot, don't you? No, not really. I know. That's sarcastic. You know what I mean? He'd just be like, it's like when I interviewed Les Claypool. I could tell he was just in the back of the bus like, fuck this guy.
Oh, man.
We're friends, you know? I think we're friends.
Yeah, well, it'd be hard to know with that guy, dude.
Let's talk about your clavinet. A lot of people love watching this. You have
Speaking of Zappa.
Yeah, you have a
George
tremolo type of arm on the clavinet.
Yeah, so actually, that entered my consciousness, the whammy clav, that is, because in my early 20s, I saw a video of George Duke, who used to play for Frank Zappa. This is when he had his solo career in the late 70s. He's playing a clavinet with a whammy bar, and it's like the YouTube video to this day is still mistitled like, check out George Duke play this freaky synth.
Oh, I gotta look that up.
Which I'll show you, but like
cool.
The clavinet is an electromechanical keyboard, and the reason the whammy bar works is because there's strings inside the clavinet. It's plucked, like a harpsichord or a clavichord, more accurately, and it's like a floating bridge, like on a guitar, like you'd have a Bigsby with a whammy bar. So it's the same principle. So like this big lever comes out and bends all the strings at once, and then you get this weird, unique situation. So I was in the market for a clavinet. This is like, I don't know, man, like 9 years ago. My buddy Max Brink, who owns a Chicago Electric Piano Company, he had just made it out of like this shitty rehearsal space that was above our rehearsal space in Chicago.
His shop?
Yeah, like his shop was comprised of like this, 20 by 15 room, and he was just like surrounded by parts and like Rhodes pianos and random shit. He like moved across the building into this bigger space. And I was like, I want a clavinet. He's like, I found you one. It's in Springfield, Illinois. It's $400, which anybody who knows gear is like, that's the cheapest possible. So I go down there. It's like a beater. There's like shit living in it. And brought it back up. I just wanted him to restore it. And he's like, I've got this kit for a whammy bar. And I was convinced that I was like, oh, no, man, that's like a gimmick. I don't want to be that guy with the whammy bar on his keyboard. And he was like, I'll install it. For the cost of the parts, I just want to learn how to do it. And so he convinced me to do it. And now it's like, it's a really cool thing, to be able to express myself, kind of like, to play basically guitar on a keyboard. It's got a very similar timbre to electric guitar.
At the time when you saw the YouTube video, did you research who made the kit? Were there multiple people, or did some guy invent this?
So this guy, I think his name is Buddy Castle.
Yeah.
And he invented this thing. He called it the Castle Bar. And so from what I know, that he only did a few of them in the 70s. And then this guy, Ken Rich, who is still a keyboard tech in LA to this day, manufactured a kit. And he called it the whammy clav.
Oh, man.
And so he, I apparently made some improvements on Buddy Castle's design, and then started manufacturing this. And that's what Max bought and started installing in my
Are they still making that?
Oh, yeah. So they still make the kit. And actually my guitarist, Kellen, he's a partner at Chicago Electric Piano Company and actually installs that kit in clavinets. So like Chicago Electric Piano Company is probably one of the only games in town when it comes to producing that instrument.
How much of the clav playing are you inspired by Stevie Wonder? Of course, he's the clav king.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, who else is really known for great clav? I know the Doors had it along with the Farfisa and the other. You got a Whirly up there? No Whirly?
No, I have so on the road with me right now, I have a Yamaha CP70.
Right, that thing's incredible.
Yeah, that's like straight up just a piano with some pickups in it.
John Lennon style, right?
Yeah, so,
right.
I mean, everybody had one. Billy Joel. When you were talking about that Russia concert, I was thinking about Billy Joel flipping a CP70 over.
In Russia?
Yeah.
Whoa.
When he was touring the Soviet Union. Anyway, but what I was going to say is Billy Preston is a huge guy. Sly Stone.
Oh, yeah.
And Stevie Wonder. And, you know, like those are kind of my holy trinity of clav playing, you know. And then like currently, you know, my favorite contemporary clav player is probably Ivan Neville.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I love that the Live on the Queen Mary record.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
Funky Meters.
The meters, like,
Oh.
yeah, Art Neville is definitely up there, just in terms of keyboard playing in general.
I remember the first time I heard that, I was at in between sets at this place, Smiley's in Bolinas, out in by Stinson Beach, and guy put on this record, and he's cranking it in between our stuff, and I said, "Hey man, what the fuck is this?" I swear I went right over to him. It took me about 10 minutes because I was just kind of in between sets chilling, and I was like, "What's this guy playing? I don't know this at all." And I go up and he goes, "Oh man, Meters Live Queen Mary." I bought it the next day.
Dude, yeah.
I played that thing for like a year, along with my Curtis Mayfield super box set that people get ready.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then also, I mean, I was just straight up in this complete soul R&B year that was just in my head. Like Curtis, I couldn't stop.
I always go back to that shit, man.
Always.
And Curtis is a Chicagoan, and so like I always have this sort of, you know, hometown pride when it comes to him because he remained in Chicago and built his own label there, Curtum, and recorded all his music there and like produced other Chicago artists like the Five Stair Steps and Baby Huey and a long list of others. But the Meters are that band that just like it was the same reaction as you. I was just like, what the fuck is this?
Couldn't believe it.
When I heard it. I think I was in high school when I first got introduced to them, and it was like other buddies I was playing music with were like, "Oh, here's the Meters' greatest hits," and I was like, that was all I listened to for quite a while. Yeah, you know, because it's just so raw, and it's like it's that line between rock and funk, you know. And Alan Toussaint produced most of that, who's another one of my heroes.
Yeah, at the time I was getting into jamming, but I didn't want to do hippie space jams.
Right.
As much as I wanted to keep. And it was almost out of necessity, too, to play 3 long sets, you know, to get the pay.
Yeah, sure.
But you're like, all right, let's just get some people are fucking moving and into it.
Yeah.
And you get that like I
Throw
said.
Sissy Strut in there.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you're just like, we got them. And once you get them, you can just vamp for a while.
Dude, that's, New Orleans riff masters.
Totally.
That's what they are, man. And that Uptown Rulers Live on the Queen Mary disc, like this, you know the story behind that? It was like,
oh, it was somebody's party or something?
It was Paul McCartney's album release party for Venus and Mars.
Crazy.
And so, like, just imagine that, you know, like it's like Paul McCartney, Mick Jagger, everybody's at this fucking party on the Queen Mary in Long Beach.
Sick.
And the best band on the planet is like the house band.
And just tons of blow.
Yeah,
you
dude.
know, people
like,
are just fucking partying.
You won't believe how they partied, but like, you know, like that Parliament lyric. But and then, you know, Alan, I think at least wrote a couple of those tunes on Venus and Mars and may have produced the record. I know it was recorded partially at Sea Saint, which was his studio, but like he must have been there, you know, like it's so cool. Like, you know, we'll never get to go to those parties, but we got to make our own cool party.
Yeah, I mean, fentanyl kind of wrecked those parties.
That's true. And like also
Threw a little curve in the cocaine.
Dude, I honestly like cocaine was.
Also, I don't want to be on cocaine.
Dude, seriously,
Gross.
yeah, it was
It's
like
gross, actually.
before fentanyl, like I couldn't be trusted with cocaine.
Yeah.
It was just I've done my lifelong allotment already.
Oh yeah. I'm like, I'm good.
It seems like to this day, it's got this sex appeal built into it. Like that's the marketing behind cocaine is like, this is cool, this is sexy,
Dude,
this is
Studio
sophisticated.
54.
Yeah, like, and it's just so like every time I did blow was so not hanging with Paul McCartney on the Queen Mary listening to the meters. It was like sitting at a kitchen table with like some fucking dudes like
Yahtzee, playing Yahtzee.
Learning like just like saying the dumbest shit ever.
Yeah,
like
we're gonna go to Disneyland.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
like
oh my god.
Let's go to the beach right now. Like
totally. We're going skydiving tomorrow when we wake up. It's 8 in the morning, you're still up. Dude, we'll go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, we wind it down in New Orleans, and I gotta say, man, it's been one of the greatest times in my life. I'm never gonna forget this. The first couple weeks, I was like, man, this is really fucking hard.
Yeah.
And then it became the calluses were on, and we were up and running, and now it's like, this is incredible. I can't believe it's been 2 months. We're winding it down. And I got to say, man, I got a lifelong friend in you and your bandmates and Marcus and the band and Ashland and all these people. There'll be memories that we will never forget.
Yeah, I agree. It's been magical. And I also agree about like, that first week was just so...
It was brutal.
Brutal, man. Like even in the midst of what we've been doing this year, which has been some crazy shit. But like, like I think now, I was just talking with Mike, our bass player, the other day. It's just like, I feel like I could do this indefinitely at this point.
Oh
like,
yeah. If I could have my dog the whole time,
right.
I'd be like,
that's
fuck
the thing.
it, I'm good.
That's the thing. It's like your loved ones not being here. That's the hardest
only
aspect.
thing. That's the only thing. Friends and my dog.
Right.
Other than that, the lifelong dream is just to be a nomad on a tour bus.
Right.
And when you first start doing it, you're like, fuck, I gotta man up. This is great.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
And then you realize, somebody DM'd me one night in the middle of the night, or somebody I know, and they go, dude, do you realize that you're 56 and you're out on a crushing tour, still this deep into your life? And I was like, that fucker's right. You know what I mean? I was like, that fucking guy is right.
He's right for sure.
And Burr with his late night, and Dice with their late night kind of their text, like, dude, don't worry about it. No one knows you're gone. They think you're gone a week, maybe 2. Everybody's in their own fucking world.
Right.
And when you come back, you'll just be a monster from doing that tour of just the strength you have of like taking that donut off the bat, like I was telling you.
Yeah, man.
I went next door and did comedy tonight, and I was just like, and same with you, as you're building your draw, think back to those first 3 nights, Philly, DC, Boston, animals out there.
Yeah. Fuck the Yankees.
Yeah,
fuck the Yankees.
Yankees suck. You're looking at your guy going, go into the next song.
Yeah.
Keep playing. Oh, fuck. You're going to Europe. Tell everybody the Europe dates.
Man, starting on November 1st. No, sorry, October. Shit. November 1st, London, England. Moth Club sold out. And then we'll be going to the mainland after that. We'll be doing like 20 shows throughout the continent. So check your website. Check your website, because it would take me a minute to.
Is it nealfrancis.com?
Yeah, nealfrancis.com.
And then when's the EP dropping?
EP is dropping November 18th.
Excellent.
Sentimental Garbage on ATO Records. Available on a streaming service near you, and we'll have physical copies available as well.
I love you, man.
Love you too, man.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
We'll be late night texting each other music. Check this out, and comedy. Oh man, I loved when I sent you that Chappelle clip because I
Oh,
was
dude,
doing it. The small bags are 5.
Oh,
the medium are
man.
10.
That's such a good bit.
All right, guys. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, Neal Francis. Get all his music. He's got 2 albums out right now, and he's going to be touring all over the next year or so. So get on that. And thank you for tuning in to Let There Be Talk. Keep the candles lit. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and iTunes. See ya.